All right, welcome back to the Radical Independent. My name is Dave. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. And you can support this channel via Patreon. So the Republican Party, after what happened to them in the midterm elections, and they continue to lose. I guess Kari Lake has now lost in Arizona from, the reports that I'm getting. Just, oh man. And what did you expect, right? You had a system in place in 2020, and you have a system in place in 2022, and you have internet, and you have Wi-Fi, and you have modems, right? So until we go to paper ballots and hand-counted paper ballots and actually have an election infrastructure that can handle votes on election day. Until we have that, this isn't going to change people. It's not going to change. The other thing is, all of you hardcore voters, I'm going to wait. I have friends that did this. I'm going to wait until the day of the election to vote. I'm not going to early vote. Okay, there's no difference between early voting in person and voting on election day in person. There's no difference. So for those of you in Arizona and in other places where you were standing in line for 2 hours trying to vote, that's on you. That's completely on you. The conspiracy is that if you vote the day of the election, then it will count. I got news for you. News flash, news break here. It could be just the opposite. They didn't have the infrastructure. They didn't have the people in place to actually manage the election, especially out in Arizona, but Pennsylvania, wherever. And again, talking about Pennsylvania to me is crazy, because you've got one city, Philadelphia, controlling the outcome of the entire state. And this is happening all over the country. Like New York City is another great example of that. Any large metro area where anything goes in those precincts, the outcomes are not favorable for people who are trying to be slightly anti-establishment. Now, again, I'm not trying to be above the fray here, but I'm looking at elections now in a completely different way. I don't think we have control anymore of this. And, for those of us who would love to see like the uprising of a real alternative to the two-party duopoly, I like the Libertarian Party a lot, and I like the Mises Caucus especially. I like those people. I like their ideas. I like the anti-war / free market ideas that I think could bring us overnight prosperity if people would get off their ass and work and do the things that they're supposed to do, and be responsible citizens and be virtuous citizens on top of it. Truly love your neighbor. Truly try to get along with people you disagree with. All of those things have to be in place in order for this to actually work. But I don't see that happening. Our culture is degenerating, and it's very precipitous. It's just getting worse and worse, almost in an exponential way. So now I'm reading these headlines, and again, I'm watching the horse race now, because going forward, I am free to vote for anybody I want to, out of conscience. I have played my last card where I'm playing it safe. In Florida, I liked the outcome. No, I'm not going to lie. I mean, DeSantis, yes, okay, but here's what I wish would happen. Ron DeSantis does not run for president. He stays as Florida governor and keeps Florida the way it is and strengthens it against a bigger, more tyrannical federal government. Supposedly, Donald Trump is going to announce that he's running for president again. And in recent days, Candace Owens has come out and said some things based on what Trump was doing to his base. And I was talking about this probably 2 years ago on this channel, and I'm not sure what the channel was named at that time, but I was saying, look, this issue with vaccines, for instance, Donald Trump doesn't seem to know how to repent, basically, and say, look, I was wrong about X, Y, and he doesn't do it. As I've said before, it's in his books. If you go read a Trump book, it's going to say something like, never let the other guy know that you're wrong. Never admit defeat. Okay, and that's what happened in 2020. Now, am I saying that 2020 was legitimate? No, I'm not saying that, but you're supposed to. You're supposed to say it was the fairest, best, cleanest, most secure election in the history of the world. And nothing's changed in 2 years. And the funny thing is, all of these pundits and, forever Trump people, there are never Trump people and there are forever Trump people, right? So the forever Trumpers are like, yeah, man, this is going to be a great announcement. I can't wait to see the president get back into the Oval Office. By the way, some of these people, 3 or 4 months, 5 months, the pillow guy, for instance, was saying, yeah, we're going to get him reinstated. He's going to get, or I'm going to sell pillows and he's going to be back in the White House. We need to pull, he would say things like, we need to pull down like a drape or a shade. We need to pull down this election, but just pull it down. Yeah, okay. First of all, that's impossible. And unless you have a military coup. You'd need a full-blown military coup, like the military lines up behind Donald Trump and says, yep, we're Venezuela now. And I'm not saying there weren't shenanigans, chicanery, whatever word you want to use. I'm not saying that. But when things aren't going your way, you don't double down on stupid. And with Trump, I'm sorry, he's losing people. He was losing people a couple of years ago when he wouldn't say he was wrong about, I think, probably the biggest issue in my lifetime is seeing this public health crisis unfolding before your eyes. And Trump claims that this was the greatest thing in the history of the world. I did it all by myself with both hands tied behind my back. And he's sitting there with Candace Owens saying this, like, well, Candace, you have to admit, I mean, it was amazing. Yeah, people have the right to do. It's almost like the afterthought that he's like admitting, yeah, people have the right to do what they want, but thank God for Pfizer. Oh, they're great. And I'm sitting there going, really? You're gonna and what's weird is you turn on one of these shows like Steve Bannon, War Room, and he's got Dr. Naomi Wolf on there like every other day, and she's hammering against this. I've got her book, The Bodies of Others. I've read it. It's a great book. I would highly recommend it. But here's Bannon, who worked on Trump's campaign and basically helped him get elected and was a key advisor. And he's got these people on every day who are going against what Trump has been saying for 2+ years. I'm the father of the vax. He takes full credit for it. And he doesn't ever say, you know what? Oops. He can't do it. So now DeSantis wins in a huge landslide here in Florida. Whether you like DeSantis or not, I mean, he flipped Miami-Dade. That's like flipping, think of any inner city where it's lockstep and there's absolutely no variation, like Philadelphia, for instance, right? I would say Philadelphia is probably a little worse than Miami-Dade, but Miami-Dade right up there with corruption and all kinds of things going on there that are not above board and very blue, very, very blue, and DeSantis turns it red. All right. To me, and by the way, DeSantis did it without making fun of anybody. He had a couple of good one-liners about taking the old donkey out to pasture, talking about Charlie Crist, who, just he was one of the worst candidates I've ever watched here in Florida. Just, again, he's lost 3 different times, once as a Republican, once as an independent, and now once as a Democrat. So I think he's in the Guinness Book of World Records now for losing, and good for him. He lost. He can go put on those Bermuda shorts and start playing shuffleboard and have a nice retirement. And he probably gets to keep a lot of the money that he raised for his campaign, which I'm sure was coming in from all kinds of really, again, high above board places that, you can't question the integrity of. Doesn't matter, though. He got destroyed. So DeSantis comes along, and by the way, DeSantis does what he says he's going to do. He's the first governor that has said, well, wait a minute, with kids under, I don't know what age. And wait a minute, kids maybe from K through 3rd grade, we may not want to teach them certain things. I think that's a little too young for that. He didn't even, some people like Tulsi Gabbard have said he should have gone further, right? So, and again, if you're not a fan of abortion, right, you can still get one. 15 weeks. You could. This is the thing people don't understand. It's kind of like a reasonable path that he's taken, and he's done it keeping the state open, being a general during Hurricane Ian, like going all over the place, and running circles around the media accusing him of, not prepping Lee County enough, not prepping Charlotte County enough. And, they're all Jim Cantori and their crew are up in Tampa waiting for the thing to make landfall. That's how much they knew, right? And so all of that, and, nobody's going to argue he had a road built to Sanibel in like 3 or 4 weeks. It was built, and it had been destroyed, and everybody's like, we'll never get back to the island. This is going to take years. Nope, didn't take years. So big, huge political victory for him. And so here comes Trump calling Ron DeSantis Ron DeSanctimonious. And I don't get it. I don't get it. I mean, obviously there's nobody telling him what to say. There's nobody and if they're saying, hey, this is a good idea, we need to go after DeSantis like we did. Look, going after Jeb Bush and Marco Rubio and John Kasich, that's one thing, right? You get a Chris Christie. He's an easy target, Chris Christie, right? Chris Christie is made for insults. He's a guy you look at him and you go, this Krispy Kreme donuts, whatever you want to say. But there are a lot of us out here now that are like, you know what? The circus was kind of fun for a while. Watching the circus, the greatest show on earth. P.T. Barnum, he's going to be up there. He's going to drop an F-bomb maybe. He might drop an S-bomb. He might say something completely over the top, and the people behind him are like, yeah, and you feel him channeling your frustrations. But is he the right vehicle at this stage to do that? Now, I'll play devil's advocate for Team Trump. Yeah, he was destroyed by the media. Yeah, he's constantly under investigation. Yeah, they raided Mar-a-Lago, which I very much disagreed with, as I disagree with all of these things like what are happening at school boards. But there are people, common people, for instance, that are still being held after the whole J6 thing, which in hindsight, and this is me being a Monday morning quarterback, they should have known that one more rally, one more protest was a bad idea. One more rally, and especially under those circumstances where they're actually voting, they're actually certifying the election. And there's just no stopping any of that. And, I can't stand Mike Pence, but he's out there basically saying, oh, my life is in danger. And there are a group of Republicans who kind of like the America First agenda. They like it. But they're like, we need somebody who's going to be able to communicate and be more diplomatic. And, some people say, well, Dave, this is what we love about Trump. He just shoots his mouth off. Doesn't work with suburban women. Just doesn't work. I mean, as much as I enjoy a good put down, a great insult, and sort of just shooting from the hip, doesn't work with certain groups of people. And look, he was a good president when he was in there. I will say that, especially compared to Joe Biden. But there are things that continued on. The swamp, we hear all the time, I'm going to drain. Nope. Swamp didn't get drained. All of the deep state military industrial complex is still intact. In fact, marched whatever way it wanted to under Donald Trump. Trump had some priorities that they liked, and he had some things that they didn't like, but they did what they wanted to. I'm sure they basically just went in there when they had meetings with Trump and basically said, well, you don't know much about foreign policy, do you? We're going to tell you what we're going to do, and here's why we're going to do it. So they basically had meetings with the president to persuade and convince him to do whatever they wanted to do. Hence, we had that missile strike in Syria. It's not as bad as it could have been. I mean, he didn't start anything new per se, but everything continued on. And he had some instincts where he said he'd like to get along with Vladimir Putin. He claims, too, that if he were still in the White House, then this whole Russia-Ukraine thing would have never happened. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know. But right now, he's out there talking about how Putin is attacking Ukraine and, oh, woe is Ukraine. Folks, it's a blank check. And my fear also is if DeSantis were to run for president, he'd have the exact same foreign policy. I interviewed Hector Roos, who ran for governor here in the state of Florida as a libertarian. Hector, buddy, I'm sorry I didn't vote for you. I didn't. I did vote for DeSantis. But Hector was right about a lot of things. And one of the things that I worry about is, okay, at the state level, this is okay. All right. We're not making decisions about whether or not we're going to attack Alabama. Right. We're not going to do that. We're Florida. Peace and prosperity, freedom, the 10th Amendment, those sorts of things. Those are what's key, I think, to the future of what's left of this experiment. Because quite honestly, other than secession, I don't know what else there is to do. I mean, so let me get back to the whole Trump thing. So you got Candace Owens out there basically throwing Trump a little bit under the bus, but really explaining herself very well. Now, again, Candace Owens, I don't know, she might be kind of neocon. I don't know. I like her. I like a lot of the things that she says, but I'm not sure about her policies on a lot of big issues. She's, I would say, a very conservative and maybe a little bit libertarian here and there, but also maybe a little bit authoritarian. But I don't know that much about her politics, but I do know that she's very articulate, very outspoken. I'm not nuts about the Daily Wire. Everybody's going to say Daily Wire rocks. Yeah, I like Michael Knowles, and I like there's a couple of guys on there. The guy who did the movie about What is a Woman, Matt Walsh. I think he's an interesting person and an important figure in these times, and I think people should listen to what he's got to say, because he says things that few people are willing to say about what's going on in the culture. But okay, so what I'm saying here is that, the Daily Wire, they're a little neoliberal, neoconservative for me, especially if you're looking at Ben Shapiro, who finally said the other day, wait a minute, maybe the CDC made a mistake. Really, Ben? Thanks for that update, buddy. He's really smart, and he talks really, 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 really fast. So that makes him, better than me and, most people here on YouTube. Well, that's not true. So this whole dust up, which has already begun because Trump is firing shots. Don't do it, Ron. Don't run for president, Ron. Don't do it. I'm going to destroy everybody just like I did in 2016. Again, Ron DeSantis is not Marco Rubio. Ron DeSantis is not John Kasich, okay? Or Kasich. I think it's Kasich or Kasich. I don't know. The dude from Ohio, who was still in the race toward the end. And he represented the real neoconservative wing of the party and moderation, and we can all just get along and it'll be great and it'll be like Liz Cheney on steroids. We are in a the more I talk about this, the more I realize how much trouble we are in. We are in so much trouble as a country, and I don't have a solution to national politics right now. I don't. There are no solutions to it. Your state, number one, should do elections correctly. I don't think that happened in Arizona. Whether you like Kari Lake or not, I'm pretty sure it didn't happen in Arizona. It didn't happen in Pennsylvania. I don't know what went on in Michigan. I've heard some crazy stuff. All over the country, in different precincts, things were not the way they should be in the supposed greatest country on the face of the earth, which we are not. Another thing, I heard this the other day. Scott Ritter said this on one of his interviews where they were talking about the term God bless America. And it's interesting because people say God bless America. Well, God bless the world. Why just God bless America? We're not exceptional. I'm sorry. We may have thought we were exceptional. We may have been somewhat exceptional at our founding, and through different periods in our history, we showed that we were an exceptional country. But this notion, almost like some people claim to be the chosen ones, we're the chosen people. We are the chosen ones. And that's my new lingo now. And people say, uh-oh, Dave's gone off the deep end. He's anti-Semitic. No, that's not it. That's not it. When you start to think that you're better than other people, we have this expression that I use at church, and it is, I'm saved by grace. I'm not saved by race. And I think people need to get a hold of a few true statements. Kanye West under attack. Dave Chappelle now under attack. 2 black guys, by the way. How did that happen, right? It's just, the world's gone mad, but they're on to something. They're on to some difficult truths. Like, you just can't write a blank check to certain countries because you believe that they're allied with us somehow because of some theological principle that you've had wrong now for over 150 years or around that time. I'm going into all different areas here, but this has to do with Donald Trump to some degree, because people will follow Trump because he represents certain things that people are still not questioning. They just don't want to think about, well, we spend almost $1 trillion each year on the military, $1 trillion. And then we spend more on these conflicts. That's just to kind of arm and equip the military. And while these military bases all over the world, we are a failing, falling empire right now. Our currency is declining. Interest rates are rising. The housing market in most places in the country is beginning its downward spiral. And we have a president right now who shakes hands with imaginary people. All right. And the solution is Donald Trump. Steve Bannon, War Room. You guys are really interesting. You tried to activate everybody and get everybody in those precincts, and you had this precinct strategy. And what happened? The system is corrupt, right? As much as I don't like the pillow guy, in a way, he's probably onto a few of these things. They're going about it the wrong way, though. Everybody's going about this the wrong way. And the media is allowed to basically say whatever they say, and it becomes truth. And then if you say something different, you get canceled, or the algorithm doesn't work in your favor. And as somebody who liked some of what Trump did, Trump was not the establishment when he got there, although he brought some establishment in with him. And I don't know why he did that if he was so anti-establishment. And he had a tendency to say things that really got under the skin of most of the political establishment, both Republican and Democrat. So you say to yourself, well, that's a good thing. It is a good thing, but there needs to be more than just talk. If you want to drain the swamp, then pull the plug and drain the swamp. Don't talk about draining the swamp. I mean, Dr. Fauci, right? What was that? Yeah, well, I'm thinking about, he does this rally and the fans cheer. Yeah, I'm thinking about if I get a second term that I can, get rid of him. Really? A second term? Well, you're the guy who ran with Operation Warp Speed, man. You stood next to him and said, yeah, we're locking things down. We got to do this. And look, is there forgiveness to some degree at the beginning of all of that? Yeah, because nobody knew what it was, but it was a massive psyop. And some of us, I was early on saying, this is crazy. What are we doing? What are we doing? I was scared for a couple of weeks. And then I said, no, they're not going to start telling me what I need to inject into my own body. They're not going to do this. I'm not going to let them do it. I was afraid, people were going to come to the house where I lived and they were going to say, hey, you've got to do this if you want to participate in any part of society. At that point, the Libertarian Party in 2020 should have marched forward and said, if you want to vote for freedom, here we are right here. And you could say, yeah, some of them did it. And they had Joe Jorgensen, who was talking about, bail reform or whatever it was she was talking about, which again, I think all of these issues are interesting, but it's priorities. You need to start somewhere at the top. You don't start with an issue at number 42. You start with, okay, we have an immigration problem. How do we fix it? You can build walls and stuff, but no, how do you fix the immigration system, to make it reformed, to make it fair, to make it streamlined for people who are coming here who actually do want to make the country a better place, because they have a motivation in some cases to do that. Everybody thinks all of these people just want to come here. And I used to think this in lockstep with all of the people on the right. Yeah, they just want to come here and freeload. No, a lot of these people are way more hardworking, and they come from a background of, working long hours for little pay. And I think, if you put those people to work here in the country, you increase the tax base, although, I'm not big on taxes, but you make the economy better. You make it better overall. And you get work done that needs to get done right now. Now, I'm not saying the whole, they'll do jobs that Americans won't do. That's an entirely different topic to cover, to say that Americans aren't going to do certain jobs anymore. That's probably partly true, unfortunately. But, if we made these jobs better quality jobs, and they had real benefits, and you'd have some kind of upward mobility, and the currency was worth something, and the cost of living, you could afford to live on your own, I think, people would be more willing. What's happening is people look at the system and they say it's gamed, it's rigged, it's gamed. Everything looks rigged and gamed. And this gets me back to Trump versus DeSantis. This, to me, is a choreographed psyop that is going to create turmoil and division within the Republican Party to the point where the party would be doing way better. But because of this turmoil between Trump and DeSantis, they're going to fight it out, and that's going to drain all the energy, all the resources, and most people aren't going to get what they want, or half the people aren't going to get what they want. And then whoever emerges from that, if DeSantis does choose to get involved, I know there's already one super PAC that has been set up for DeSantis to run for president, and they're fundraising, yada, yada. To me, that sounds like it's a possibility that he may get into it. And he's going to have to say, look, we need a serious candidate in the White House right now. There's no more pomp and circumstance here. There's no more three-ring circus. There's no more fun insults. And people will say, well, I'm going to miss that. Yeah, it's fun. He was great on Twitter. Trump was great on Twitter. Let him back on. I guess he doesn't want to go on there. And now he talks on Truth Social. So everybody will go over to Truth Social to hear what he's got to say. You know what? We have big problems to deal with. Nobody seems to want to talk about the war in Ukraine. That is draining us. The military is draining us. The yearly military budget. You want to put America first? Really? But yet, you talk about, well, I would blow the crap out of this and that. And how much is that going to cost? And is this a direct threat to the United States? No. Let Putin deal with Ukraine and let Ukraine deal with Putin. Zelensky versus Putin. Let them deal with this. It's their regional conflict. If you want to take a side, I think you've already done that. The sanctions and all that stuff. And then the people in Europe are going to freeze because of this. And they're supposed to be our allies. So we punish our allies by the position we take with Russia because they have power, because they have energy over there. And that's another issue. America needs to get back to work taking care of America and not worrying about other countries. This whole, you're an isolationist if you do that. You know what? Our founders, a lot of them, I think it was Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, they're all like, yeah, foreign entanglements. No, you're going to be chasing monsters. I think that's the term they use. Don't go chasing monsters. And this is all we do. We chase monsters. We put it in the media, and then people are wearing their little Ukraine lapel pin. It's just ridiculous. And then you ask them about it, and they have no idea even where Ukraine is on the map. So anyway, I think this could be, everybody said the last election is going to be the end of the Democratic Party. It's going to be the end. They're just, no. What the last election really was, okay, is a victory for the uniparty. All right, you've got power split almost equally in the Senate, depending on how that all shakes out. You've got power split almost equally in the House. And you've got a president who is a pure puppet on a string, who, again, hate to keep saying this, shakes hands with imaginary people. And he wants to run again. And, like I said, after the election, I said, I guess people like rising interest rates. I guess they like hyperinflation. I guess they like the fact that the real estate market is crashing. I guess they like the fact that gas remains expensive and isn't going down to pre-Biden levels. And for you Trump people, I get it. Yeah, I like the economy better too then. So, you can make this argument, you bring Trump back, but I would bring someone better back. I would bring someone like DeSantis, or I would find someone who was most concerned about freedom and liberty and prosperity and peace. Peace, prosperity, liberty. I don't know which one. I think liberty comes first. Liberty has to come first. Read the Constitution. Read the Declaration of Independence. Read the preamble to the Constitution or the Declaration. Mind-blowing words that apply exactly to where we are today. we need to break away from tyranny. That's why I say the only thing really that you can do with what's happening is get out of the contract. Okay, hey, we're Florida. We were in this for a while. Hey, we're Texas. Remember the Lone Star State? We can be the Lone Star again. We don't need the federal government. Florida does not need. You think FEMA is doing a great job down here after the hurricane? No. The usual complaints are coming in from all over the place. DeSantis had a rainy day fund built up, had a surplus. He should just do this himself and just say, you know what, thanks, FEMA. But most states do this so they don't have to dip into their own state budgets. And it's another way that the federal government holds something over your head. You know, well, yeah, we're going to give you some money if you follow what we say. And forever, you're just, puppets of whatever regime that is in power, left or right, quite honestly. So again, I think that DeSantis versus Trump will destroy the Republican Party in so many different ways. You're going to hear all of the never Trumpers coming out of the woodwork saying, see, and you're going to have people who supported Trump but did so reluctantly kind of now say, and kind of like I am to some degree, and say, you know what, this is too much. This is too much. He's an older guy now too. I'm not saying he's not mentally fit to be the president of the United States, but I think, again, if he were to run and win, he'll be like 78, 79 years old when he takes the oath of office again in 2024. Do we want to do this again? You know what? I would just say no. I think we need something completely different. I mean, we need a serious person who can communicate in a way that doesn't make every woman, and I'm not saying every woman, but a lot of women and a few men, obviously, just don't bond, don't relate to the rhetoric. They don't want to hear their crazy uncle talk. They want to hear somebody like a DeSantis, like somebody who's got a brain, who goes up there and is able to communicate what's in his brain and knows how to run a government. And in the case of DeSantis, he's got great experience running a very prosperous state. And he can throw that at Trump all day long. He could throw it at Trump all day long. Now, I think my great wish, though, is that people look locally and they find their county commissioner and they find their state rep. I know this doesn't sound very sexy, right? Find your state senator, find your town council, find your freaking dog catcher and say, you know what? I'm concerned about this issue, that issue, and this other issue here. Send an email, send a text, send a letter, whatever it is that you have to do to get things to work better locally where you live, regardless of what state you're in. Say, hey, I'm a constituent and I'm communicating directly here. The federal government doesn't listen to me and they're going in the wrong direction. And by the way, can we break away from the union? Seriously. I mean, I know secession movements are popping up in pretty much every state. Seriously. There are many states that have decided to start to think about this. And it's not going to make the news media because the news media wants to continue to promote this idea that we are the United States of America. We are not united on anything. I mean, even within a state, it's tough to get, people to agree on anything. Heck, I belong to an HOA. We can't agree on anything in the HOA. It's a little microcosm of how people operate. And then, it becomes a bureaucratic mess in a little place like that. And then just think of, a ripple, concentric circles going out until you get to Washington, D.C., where, I don't know, that town to me is a foreign country. D.C. is a foreign country, and I would rather not be a part of anything going on in that foreign country. Seriously. I mean, you want to have the nostalgic view of the United States. You want to think back, oh, the good old days, the red, white, and blue, the bicentennial. You know, you want to think back at your childhood and how great it was. Yeah, there were some great things about this country, and Democrats and Republicans, we could kind of hang out together and talk about our differences. It's over. That's over. And do you need kind of a strong man to go in there, which I don't like? I don't like anybody who's a strong man. People will say, well, that's why Trump is effective. I don't know. I think you need to have somebody there who is your ally behind the scenes. And Trump has no allies at all. And I think DeSantis would have a few allies. And would that mean he would do the same things that all of these neoliberal and neoconservative presidents do? Yeah, unfortunately, I don't see an end to that. It just, hey, new president, which war do you want to fight? You know, so here's where I'm at. Domestically, if we could get things better than they currently are now, like when Trump was in office in 2019, 2018, if we could get things better, that's a win. But you're never going to get there by insulting people who really are, I would say, a step above what Trump was. And I think DeSantis is a step above. Some people will disagree with me. That's fine. But that's the problem. See, that's the disagreement. Now, the bottom line is here for president, next time around, either I'm not voting or I'm voting, and people say, you got to vote, or I'm just going to do a protest vote. Who is the libertarian who's going to get the nomination? Who is the Constitution Party candidate? I will look them up and say, you know what? This is the stuff I really believe in. And the two-party duopoly. And you know what? I get it. It's a waste. It's a waste because do you think those votes actually get registered? As soon as those quantities start going up, nobody wants anyone to know that, say, in this little area over here, a third-party candidate did really well this time. I wonder why. What's going on there? They don't want you to even see that. So there's very little hope for any kind of third-party breakthrough unless something catastrophic happens where everybody gets thrown under the bus, both Democrats and Republicans, and the media has a change of heart, and Google has a change of heart, and the world has a change of heart and says, you know what? Kind of like every other country, we need a bunch of different political parties. And then we need ideas, and we need to hear those ideas out loud. And we need everybody having access to communicate those ideas. Otherwise, it's a sham. And, you know, as much as I want to believe that, you know, maybe the Republicans are a little bit better than the Democrats, that's true to some extent. But the ones that really want to make real changes and have bold policy ideas, those people get beaten. They get beaten badly because either people don't want change or there's something else going on. And I would have to say it's a little bit of both. It's enough of both to kind of destroy the whole thing, which again, is just frustrating, but we have to be cheerful and we have to go on with our lives. And whether you're a libertarian, conservative, progressive, independent, no party affiliation, just sitting here going, crap, these people, they're not listening to me. They're just not listening to me. They don't care. They don't care about, you know, how much more my grocery bill was this week compared to last. They don't care about my homeowner's insurance going through the roof, literally. They don't care about these things. What they care about are these political episodes, this theater that happens. What was it? Frank Zappa said that politics is the entertainment wing of the military-industrial complex. And that's where I'll leave things. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, and Patreon. Both my channels, if you can help me out, $1 a month, $2 a month. It's really appreciated. And again, we'll see you soon.